This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, it's ODB. This is Our Lifestyle podcast. We're getting ready to jump into the fresh episode, and we want to thank our title sponsors, which includes Custom Car Show Productions. They have 3 key events every year. Orange Beach Invasion every March in Orange Beach, Alabama. Scraping the Coast every June in Biloxi. And Bayou Showdown, which is every November in Slidell, Louisiana. We also want to thank Mini Truck Showdown Family, which includes their event, their flagship event, the first weekend in June 2022 in Las Vegas, Mini Truck Showdown. You can go on Facebook or Instagram for more information. They also have Kern County Showdown, which is going to be in Bakersfield, California, the first weekend in February 2022. Thank you so much. Support those that support the scene, and on to the episode. Yo, it's Our Lifestyle Podcast, episode 272, I believe. And thanks for everyone that continues to come back and rock with us. We certainly appreciate it. And want to let you know that I'm going to keep this intro a little shorter than normal. Mickey Mike the Mary's out gallivanting. Something about EBGD, Eastbound Get Downs, going down this weekend. So he's excited about that. Him and Mrs. Mayer, I think, are getting spun out. Of course, heading north over to the Orlando area. So bear with us this week. A little bit shorter intro, but we have an amazing episode. You know, we keep the pedal stomped 3+ years, of course, every Friday. And on this episode, we have someone that I've been talking to for a while, actually 2 homies. We got Ronny from Phlat Out DVD, old school. Some of you guys know it, some of you don't, but you gotta tune in. This audio is fantastic. We also have the big homie Chas Nichols, and they have been related for a while. They've been friends for 20+, and it's just a fantastic interview. Believe it or not, this one's going to be a 2-part, okay? And I know some of you always go, damn, just let it ride, okay? It's about 2 hours worth of audio, and it is jam-packed with everything from how Phlat Out started, the 88 to 98, the few trucks that Chas has owned, including one that was on a couple of covers, featured several times. There's a long history with this 88 to 98. We talk all about that. We hit on Alex Anderson, Courtney Hollowell, many of the folks that we've lost over the past 10 to 20 years or so. So, again, jam-packed. Don't want to give you much more than that. Just know a lot of work went into kind of this interview, as well as cleaning up the audio. So it's going to be a 2-parter, all right? So we'll have to leave you at a cliffhanger a little bit later. The episode, now this podcast, you always hear at the top, is brought to you by our 2 main sponsors, of course, Custom Car Show Productions. They've been with us since the beginning, but also we've got the Mini Truck Showdown family that has joined on. You've heard about that, and this is what's important. If you're out in Killicali, maybe Arizona, please go out the first weekend in February, just a few weeks from now, to the Kern County Showdown. That's in Bakersfield, California. You got Kern County Showdown on Instagram, also on Facebook. Corey and team have been going live on Facebook. They've also been putting out the FAQs, which stands for Frequently Asked Questions. So please get out there on Instagram, Kern County Showdown, also on Facebook, and get out to the event. The first event for Custom Car Show Productions, you hear it at the top, is going to be Orange Beach Invasion. We're looking forward to that later in the month of March, so they bumped that back a little bit the last weekend in March, and we're looking forward to, Keg Media linking up, of course, with Custom Car Show Productions for that awesome event in Orange Beach, Alabama. So, again, as I reinforce, we've got a 2-part episode kind of hitting you starting this week, and the overview of this episode brought to you by Graphics Mafia. Can't thank the big homie, Buddy, and Ryan enough for all that they do. They always take care of us with stickers. If you need some design work, maybe you need some stickers, maybe you want a sign to stick in the ground at these different shows that say, hey, club parking for said club, get with Buddy, get with Ryan. If you've got an old decal that you want to reproduce like they did for us with Colorado Custom, please hit them up. It's graphics, GRAPHIX mafia.com. Instagram, of course, Facebook, and don't forget, Buddy's on TikTok, but he is slipping. He said he's going to be getting more videos out soon. All right, the last episode recap. This one was a tough one. We, of course, re-aired the audio with Alex Anderson, rest in peace. And I got to say, we got a lot of love for it. One person I want to thank is his daughter, his oldest daughter. She reached out to us, and it was heartfelt. She said that she really appreciated the interview, and she Cassandra Anderson. She said, that she appreciated the audio. She appreciated the kind of the clear, concise, interview that we did with Alex, and she wanted to be able to get the audio. So of course we took care of helping her out with that. Okay. Of course we said rest in peace to your pops. He was a beloved guy, and she said thank you very much. I'm sure I can figure this out some way. Appreciate any help getting the audio over to me. It means a lot. So again, we told her, just like we've told a lot of folks last year, we don't talk about it too much. We gave a lot of what we made in any little bit of profit here at the podcast, we gave to charity, contrary to what some people probably think. But everyone from Vic to Mitch Henderson, rest in peace, to his mother a year ago, we got that terrible news. We gave some to Ernie Macias as well and others. So just know that everything we do here, we truly believe in the scene. We love the scene. And if it wasn't for people like Alex Anderson, also known as Alex Who, we've always said this, we wouldn't be where we are today with the amount of shows and great people and badass trucks that have been built over the years. So, you can slice and dice that any way. But remember, Alex also, he was tied into a lot of TV shows. So you think about how much the scene has grown from people like him and Finnegan and different editors of magazines and stuff. It really means a lot. So Cassandra, thank you for reaching out. Rest in peace, Alex. And thank you to everyone that commented and just showed a little bit of love to the homie, a beloved dude. We mentioned recently we did link up with Pin, and Pin Cushion is going to hopefully link up with us here in the coming weeks, and we'll be able to share the details about the get-together at West Coast Customs. That's going to be in March on the 19th, so more to come. The last episode recap brought to you by Lone Star Throwdown. I said recently, if you go to LoneStarThrowdown.com, if you are looking to do a transfer of a pre-registration, you got to get on that ASAP. And when you go out there to registration under transfers, you will see that you have from January 2nd to January 22nd. So I think by the time this airs, you'll have like one more day. And last week, I talked about the face tattoos. Radar said, hey, we don't want everyone going out to get a face tattoo to get in for free. But he said maybe if the first couple, he said, hey, you got to phone ODB when you get to the gate because we can't be over there working the gate. But he said, hey, listen, we appreciate all the support for Lone Star. And he goes, if someone wants to get a face tattoo, tell them that Mike will pay for it. So, just throwing that out there. You know what I'm saying? We like to have fun here. You guys know that. So, on to the general updates. So, really, a couple things I want to mention. Again, with this episode, this has been in the works a while. I've been talking to these guys, so thanks for sitting down. But I also want to mention, for the general updates for me, I've committed to doing as much as I can this year to grow the Lincoln Addict podcast. So, if you like what we do here, make sure you check out what I do over at Lincoln Addict Podcast. You can just search Lincoln Addict, typically via the same podcast app, more than likely, that you're using to listen here, such as Apple Podcasts. That the Lincolns are awesome because even if you don't own one, many folks give a thumbs up to them, whether it's the the four-door convertible, the sedans, the coupes. We talk mostly about the 60s Lincolns, but this one's going to be pretty interesting because this week on Friday, same day that this is dropping, I'll be dropping Nick Griot, and he's from Griot Garage. And the cool thing is, what I did is when I interviewed him, I talked a lot about detail products. We talked a little bit about the big C word that's in the industry these days, ceramic coatings. And, a lot of folks are always asking, hey, tell us more about it. What's this nanotechnology, whatnot. So what I would ask is, again, I think if there's one episode that many of you would enjoy, it's going to be this one, because Nick, of course, has that long, history with his pops that he'll talk a little bit about. Of course, growing up a car guy, but we also hit upon before any Lincoln talk, we talk about detailing products, and that's cool to me because although like the big homie Vic, he loves the detail, he loves to cut and buff and do all these things. Dude, all I know is to crack a brew, get a bucket, put some Dawn soap in it, get my nozzle going, right? Get some water in the bucket, and, get me an old towel, that I've cut up in the old closet. The wife says, hey, take these towels out to the shop and start washing, right? So I'm the guy that has, had a couple nice things, but really isn't the best detailer. So I know Brendan Burrell, shout out to the big homie, he's always listening. I know he'd be cringing right now. He's going, dude, what are you talking about, man? Use those microfibers, use all those awesome detail products that are out there on the market. But I'm, of course, learning myself. So, again, Lincoln Attic Podcast, check me out over there. And guess what? You don't have to put up with Miggity Mike, the mayor, over there, because we shut him out. The general update's brought to you by Southeast Mini Truck and Nats. Please, please, please. I've told a couple people that haven't really been to some shows in a while, I said, listen, you can't necessarily get a ticket in with a vehicle. However, fly on in. I think Charlotte, I forget what airport's the closest, but let's say you fly in, you Galavan in, you're going to have a great time. The cruising is amazing. Southeast Mini Nats, of course, Mini Truck and Nats on Instagram. The event page is out there. They've got cool gear that they'll have at the show that'll sell out pretty quickly. But the atmosphere is fantastic, a little bit cooler before the summer months. Hit us up. We'll be out there at Mini Nats. We do have something in store that I think a lot of people are going to go, wow, dude, nobody thought of this. So just wait. We'll see you out there at Mini Nats, Maggie Valley, North Carolina. Towards the end of April. Search, you'll find the website, Biggity Boom. You'll hopefully meet us out there. Now, trivia with Mike, of course.
Okay, players, now it's time to get serious.
Dude, Mike blew my mind last week. All right, I cannot believe he knew about North Shore. I was going to call him a Holly, I think is how you say it. If you've ever watched that movie, you'll know what that means. But I went back and I tried to buy the Blu-ray. It was only available on Target.com, and I was like, eh. So I ended up biting the bullet, and I bought it through iTunes, which kind of, Apple Movies, whatever they're calling it. I do like that because that's where most of our stuff is now. Of course, we've got the old DVDs, but, who wants to get off the couch and go, ravage through those to find one? Of course, you got to do that sometimes if the movie's kind of not available. But I did rewatch, as I mentioned, the cult classic, North Shore. And it's pretty funny to read some of the reviews on just different platforms like IMDb and stuff because a lot of people are going, well, that movie is like, they analyze it and say, man, it's highly unlikely that, someone would have been able to win a surf contest in Arizona in one of the wave pools and then go out to North Shore and learn over the summer, how many weeks was it really? And it's like, come on, man. It's an 80s movie. It's cheesy and that's what it is, but it's awesome. The memories that brought back, for me going, asking the parents to rent it at the local VHS store, Be Kind Rewind, of course, but check it out if you haven't in a while. And if you've never seen it, again, it's kind of on the level of Rad, but of course it's not as good as Rad. So I'll never say that. So trivia with Mike, it will be postponed to next week, but I do want to thank All Time Low Magazine. I know their new long-awaited issue is coming out, and the team is working feverishly to get that into print. ATLmagazine.com. You can subscribe. This next issue will have, my understanding, a nod to Ernie Macias and others, including Alex. So, again, check it out, ATLmagazine.com. All right, so the scene updates, a couple, the short things I'll cover is obviously this weekend. Contrary to, I think there was some confusion. Some people thought we would be vending. You would think we would at Mike's show. And I do want to let you know that we won't be set up at this show. So I may bring the tent, though. I talked to Mike, and I say that because we will have some product there, which are going to be the new skate decks and the new metal sign. So kind of the podcast updates I'm going to merge here. But if you come out to Eastbound Get Down, EBGD, if you listen to the last episode, I finally got that down. We will be out there. Now, Mike obviously is going to be preoccupied with the event. And with that, it really cuts my time because if I want to take photos, if I want to gallivant around, really won't have that opportunity. So if you don't see the tent, look for me, look for Mike. He'll let you know where I'm at, and I can sling like Master P was back in the day with the cassettes out the trunk. I'll be slinging the skate decks and metal signs. And the reason why I say that is this. We don't have a lot of the big metal signs. I think they're going to go ASAP, right? Those we cannot ship. The little ones, I know that are highly sought after, and we have been waiting a while to re-up the little metal signs. So I say little, they're a nice size. You guys have seen those in the past, but if you want to get your hands on them, they go super quick, and we can't just get those on a whim. So if you want them, hit us up. I know, Tim from Acro here locally, he was curious about some of the skate decks. We will have the new River Run Remix skate decks, first time ever, boom, out there. So hit me up. And again, the cool thing is it reinforces that even though it's Mike's show, we're not out there just to sell, right? I'm looking to kind of go there, kick back, take some photos, hang with the good folks like Tony from Asphalt Army. DJ Mays is going to be there. So many great folks. Roxy and those guys are coming from Alabama, Simmons Payne and so many good folks. So, again, we're not all about going to every show selling. You'd think, hey, you're at Mike's show. You can vend and blow out a bunch of stuff. Yeah, we could. That's not why we do this, guys, right? So, contrary to what some people think, okay, it's not why we do it. But what that means is the first show that we will be selling at is going to be Lone Star Throwdown. I mentioned that earlier. And what's key there is we will have a bunch of stuff. So metal signs, your opportunity there to get some of that stuff if you're not at Mike's show this weekend. So come on out, Lone Star Throwdown. And depending on how things line up, we might have some new merch. We'll have to wait and see. But those are the key scene updates for this week. And I want to thank Garage Gear Clothing. Speaking of Lone Star Throwdown, if you're at LST, go to out to the Garage Gear Clothing booth, see Crystal and team, and cop some new gear. Let them know that Our Lifestyle Podcast sent you. You never know. She will sometimes hook you up. Of course, she won't hook you up as much as Hank, because Hank, he's he's shoveling stuff out the back. But you never know. Crystal will take care of you. Or, better yet, GarageGearClothing.com, and just know free shipping in the U.S. All right, the key show updates for this week. I've talked about a lot of the key shows. The only other one that I want to mention for right now is the weekend after LST. We've been talking about it. We're going to be at Relaxin' on the Ranch, and that's going to be a fantastic time down in South Florida. Big ups to the RA Florida fam for doing what they do, and we will be down there, and we'll be having a great time. So please, if you're in that area, come on out, even if it's for the day. The last 2 years, I've gallivanted home. I think I may stay this year, but wherever I stay, I'm not staying by the DeCorver's tent, dude. Like we've established, dude, this guy is hitting 3-wheel. I don't know what's going on in the tent. If this tent's a rockin', you know the whole story. So big ups to everybody that's going to be down there at the RA event in a few weeks. And lastly, of course, Scraping the Coast. We're excited about that. It's going to be the last weekend in June. Come on out to Biloxi, Mississippi, one of our title sponsors. We certainly appreciate everything that the team does there, and rest in peace to our big homie, Greg Miller. The Key Show Updates is brought to you by the West Coast Influence. Make sure you go to minitruckfilm.com. Yes, that's a real website, minitruckfilm.com. Cop the Blu-ray, cop the DVD. They also have, dare I say, some custom die-cast, and I want to announce this, okay? I've misplaced something in my house, and I have been looking like there's no tomorrow, okay? OCD has kicked in, but here's one thing that I found. My West Coast Influence shirt, after Made of Steel show a few years ago, disappeared. And I was like, dude, I have a million black shirts, okay? I have a bunch I haven't never worn, but I have one West Coast Influence shirt, and I love that shirt. The font on the front, the pink, the trucks on the back. Dude, it is fire. And it was gone. And I finally found it. So if you're ever looking for something, okay, take your drawers, okay, out from your dresser, okay, not those other drawers. Take your drawers out from your dresser. Some of the new ones, you got the little things, you got to push one down, pull one up, and pull those out and just see what could be underneath there. You might find a surprise. And, of course, I found a couple of shirts, one of my favorite blue shirts, super, super cool blue shirt that ties into Lincoln's, and then I found my West Coast Influence. So, Radar and team over there, just know I'll be repping it. Love the West Coast Influence. Check them out, minitruckfilm.com. All right, so I kind of talked about the podcast updates. So what I'm going to do is just kind of reinforce the Airhead Nation updates. And a part of our fam from the podcast, I want to say our condolences to Louie from Flowhost, the VP Prez. Of course, Flowhost is a friend and family of the podcast here, and he had posted a post a couple of days ago, and he said to my dad, "Thank you so much for everything you've given to us." And he kind of goes on to say, and he ends the paragraph with, "I love you, Dad. You'll always be with us in our hearts." And up until that point, I wasn't sure. I kind of thought maybe I knew what happened. And, of course, he lists January 29th of 1929 to January 18th of 2022. So, man, I mean, closing in on almost 100 years old. And, we recently lost Betty White. But, you think about just an amazing life that someone like that could live, for that long. We had, I forget if I had mentioned, we had a family member that my wife calls Grandma Kyle. She lives up in Pittsburgh. And very similar to age here, she was just over 100 years old, but she was a lifelong Pittsburgh Pirates fan. She had never been to a game, and someone had caught wind of it, and then I think the Pirates organization brought her in with the family. Some of the news outlets did a write-up on her, and she passed away several weeks ago, and she was 101 years old. She took a nap, which she did kind of every day. You can imagine, hard-working lady still making meals every day for her family, and she just never woke up. So, you think about 100 to 101 years old, maybe even 90. I mean, that's a hell of a time, and a lot of these, these old folks, they're still enjoying their life. So, to Louie and the Flowhost family and all of your family, our condolences from OLP. So, rest in peace to your pops. We want to thank Hammered Weekend Wear, HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. One important thing is the pre-sales continue to go down every 2 months, but please, please, please know that these shirts are amazing. You can always get in early in the year, kind of December into January, into their what they call open enrollment. You've heard us talk about that. But please, if you can, go out there and show Ron and team some love. HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. We certainly appreciate them. My closing thought before we roll into the first part of audio with Chaz and Ronny is, thanks again for all the support, all of the thumbs up, all of the likes, the comments, and the reviews. If you're on an iPhone, go and select library, select OLP, scroll way down, okay, all the way down, and tap on the 5 stars. If you want to go a step further, you can write a review, and that helps us out. But with that being said, got to thank Joey at Get Decked. I mentioned those skate decks earlier. Joey came through for us big, and we'll have about 20-25 decks being delivered at EBGD, Eastbound Get Down. So we're looking forward to that. We have Welch's Chop Shop that is delivering a bunch of metal signs, the smaller ones and some larger ones. So get with me this weekend if you want to cop that stuff. The reason why I say is if you don't and you want it, when I put it or when we upload it on the website, it's going to go super quick, and Mike's going to ship it out, and it's going to be gone for, we may not even get a reorder in before LST. So hit us up. Thanks to Welch's Chop Shop. If you're a show and you need some awards, maybe you want to do some one-off type stuff. Maybe you even want to do something that's cool, like a metal kind of picture frame, right? Like Welch did for me in the past that has a photo of Rob and my dad in it. Go to welcheschopshop.com. Welch's Chop Shop on Instagram, Facebook as well. Hit them up and let them know that our Lifestyle Podcast sent you. So, with that being said, quick 25-minute intro. Could have made it quicker, but of course I had some stuff to talk about. Appreciate everyone. Go Pack Go this weekend and stay on the rise. We'll talk with you soon, and we'll be bringing some content from Eastbound Get Down. Make sure you follow us and maybe turn on post notifications on Instagram. We'll be going live. We'll be sharing tons of stuff. Thank you so much to all the support. Stay on the rise, as I mentioned. We out you. Enjoy the audio. Peace. Yo, as I mentioned, I'm so excited to sit down with Chas and Ronny. We've been talking for a minute about nailing this down, and I said, hey, it's 2022. We're going to get sideways into this new year. And I just got to say thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, dudes. Thank you, homies, for sitting down. And Chas, I want to just ask first, man, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
Good. And Ronny, dude, out in Killicali, doing it up. Man, how's your Saturday going?
Man, it's great, man. Went to the mountain bike trail this morning and came back ready to sit around and watch some football.
Dude, man, I'm excited. And, this is obviously what the NFL is calling the Super Wild Card Weekend. So, we're all like kind of doing this in between the games. But like I said, I appreciate you guys sitting down, and it's always cool to see you out there on the mountain bikes and doing your thing. But, I figured we just kind of just get started a little bit and say, hey, Chas, for the guys or the listeners that maybe not know a lot about you, talk to us a little bit about, who are you? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Mesquite, good old Mesquite, Texas, down the street from the old Mesquite Rodeo, and been around the scene since 98, 99, I guess, when I got my first truck. And then about 01 or so, I started working for Street Source magazine, kind of going around the country, taking pictures of stuff and writing rambling-ass articles that probably nobody understood because it had no punctuations. But, that was kind of where I came from. Got in Camber in 01 and met up with Ronny right about then, about 2000, 2001. And, just been going through the truck scene ever since then, just kind of meeting and greeting everybody as I go.
Yeah, tip of the cap, dude. 20 years passes so quick, and just sometimes I think back and go, wow, man, 20 years ago, how, things were so different. We weren't wearing black socks. We were wearing white socks. The show shirts weren't black. They were white. Things changed. But, Ronny, obviously there's so much cool stuff to talk about, but talk to us a little bit about like where you grew up. You came from Texas as well, right?
Yeah, I'm right next door to Mesquite. There is Garland. I was born and raised in Garland, and then we, when I was about 15, we moved down to Tyler. So that's out in East Texas, and I finished high school and college, and went to junior college down there, and then I came back to Dallas, to get out of that little small town. Mm-hmm. But I consider myself a Tyler boy. I'm a Tyler kid. My parents stayed there and lived there until they both died, so I was all back there and stuff, So I consider myself a Tyler kid. Yeah,
rest in peace to your parents. And Texas is, they always say everything's bigger in Texas, and we used to always think back to the builds and the teams and all that stuff that comes from Texas, and it is crazy. I remember the first time I ever went there was back in like an 01, and I think it was 2000, 2001. I went there for work one time, and we were doing a billing system conversion, and they're like, oh, you got to go to this place, Papados. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. And it's like then I found out there was like 4 or 5. There was like the seafood version, the American version, the barbecue version. And so when we left there, they had these cookies, and they were huge. And I was like, damn, as a youngin', I was like, dude, everything is bigger than Texas, because these chocolate chip cookies had to have been 14 inches round. You know what I mean?
2 days to eat it.
Yeah. I was like, damn, dude, I'm killing my calories here. So, but, good stuff. And, there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Chas, if I kick it back to you and kind of go, okay, so you think back a little over 20 years ago, what was the gateway drug, so to speak, into the truck scene? Was it just like your neighbor had a truck? I mean, I'm always, curious on like what really drew you in.
Man, I thought back to, I was a freshman in high school, and I picked up a mini trucking magazine, and Pat Nichols' truck was on the cover of it. Mm-hmm. And I remember that name because my mom's name was Pat Nichols.
Oh, really?
So that's how I always remembered so I always remember that truck. And I was like, man, it's crazy. Don't have a hood on it. Man, and that kind of started my thought process of mini trucking and whatnot. But then in '97, I was at a friend's house, and this guy named Aaron Morgan drove by with his stepside, single cab stepside Chevy that was lowered 2.4 or whatever it was, and just blaring exhaust, just looked beefy as hell. And I was like, oh my God, I want a truck just like that. That's that's what I want. That's fast forward to about a year later or so, we were out looking truck shopping, and there that truck was sitting at Young Chevrolet.
No
And
way.
my parents co-signed, and we bought that truck. And I thought I was the coolest kid around. Just in that lowered truck that was, of course, built by someone else. But I mean, I had the coolest truck. And
he was the king
town.
of Galloway.
Yeah, I was the king of Galloway.
He was the king of cruising Galloway. That's the street in Mesquite that everybody cruised.
That's cool, man.
Then I had that truck for like 6 months, and had a little accident with a tree with it and totaled it. And then I had someone kind of popped off to me after we totaled it. He's like, "You'll never have a truck like that. You can't build one like that on your own. All you can do is buy it. Buy someone else's." I'm like, "All right."
So we bought one.
So I bought extended cab step side and bagged it, painted it, and that's kind of like by the time I ran into Ronnie, and tried to start.
That one door was suicide.
Yeah, the one door was suicide, and the other one wasn't. I couldn't afford the other one.
Yeah.
So only one got suicide, and had the biggest sag on it, man. I tell you what, man, you'd open that door, it dropped like 3 or 4 inches. It was terrible. It was so terrible. And then, but yeah, and then that's kind of when I met, ran into Ronnie and started talking camber and this and that, and
Okay, let me interject here. So Chaz at that age was the most carefree, relaxed, no problem dude at all. Lived at mom and dad's house, had a cool truck, it worked at his parents' jewelry store. Didn't really have care in the world. He busts his ass nowadays though. He's
Right.
But yeah, he was just the carefree, luckiest guy everybody knows, So there's my 2 cents about Chaz about 98, 99.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, well, when you think back to that era, we all were in different spots and things like that, but it is always cool to kind of hear, like, your parents maybe help you with your first cosign. I remember paying a couple $100 a month for insurance, supposedly. It was what I was paying, and, you kind of get your... you kind of get in the game a little bit and you're like excited. And then obviously some things kind of twist and turn. And, maybe it's an accident. Maybe it's like, hey, I sell this. I want to get that. But, Ronnie, I'm kind of curious. So, like, obviously you kind of mentioned there a little bit on how you met Chaz, but what was your kind of forte into the truck stuff? Like, did you see a neighbor cruising and you're like, dude, I want into this lifestyle?
Man, I'm a lifelong skateboarder.
Yep.
And so I really got serious. I always had a mini truck, but I wasn't serious about it because I was always skating. I skated day in, day out through all the way to, the early 90s. I started in 74. And so, but in 93, I blew out my knee. And so things got kind of weird for me. So I was about 29 years old there. A couple years later, I bought in 95, I bought a brand new Nissan hardbody. Promised my then wife, before Sunshine, the first wife, who Chaz remembers, Lisa. We're still, she's a good woman. But I bought that 95 Nissan. Promised her I wouldn't do anything to it, and then like 18 months later, I'm taking home my very first trophy, which was the first place right off the bat. Boom. And then I'm, of course, then I'm older. I've got more money than most of these guys. I've already got a house and a mortgage and a career and all this stuff. So getting bagged is not that big a deal. So I got bagged early on, man. I think I bagged my truck in like 97.
Wow.
So I bagged it and got going from there. And then, then the whole club thing started and I started meeting people and all that. And so, and then it was probably like late 99. It was like December or January of 2000. I got into camber. And so I was in Outlandish Trends with Big Daniel, Big Daniel from Texas Camber. He works on the LST staff.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Yeah.
Big
So
meathead.
me and him and what's Jason Reeves? Jason Reeves was the guy who ran Outlandish Trends, and so and then there was a guy named Sean who had a shop called Suspension Dimension, and we were all hanging out over there. He was in Outlandish Trends with us, and so we all got bagged one right after the other. So pretty much all of Outlandish Trends. Back then, Big Daniel had that. He had that little Honda Accord. It was a Hydra. So that's kind of where, and then right around that, about that time I got in there, I met Chaz, and then, we kind of started the process of Chaz, we were not in a rush to let Chaz in. Mr. Carefree, relaxed, always, not a worry in the world. You can wait a little bit.
The truth comes out now. No, I know, right? Well, but I want to ask you this, right? So you mentioned the S word, skateboarding. So when you and I, we bumped into each other last year, ironically, at Rudy's, and that was, Courtney always wrote about it early on in Street Trucks, and I was like, dude, I love this place. I hadn't been there like in 20 years. But one thing that, when we were talking about skateboards, there was a guy, if I recall correctly, that you really followed, and was he the guy that passed away, something early in skateboarding, and I mentioned to you that the Joe Lamb guy collects the skateboards.
Yeah, so Jeff Phillips was his name.
Jeff Phillips.
He was a big-time pro all through the 80s, right there with Christian and Tony Hawk and Steve Caballero and all those guys. I mean, he was right there, top 5 skater with those guys, I met him in junior high, probably 77, and we were friends all the way up until the day he died. So I had a good ride, kind of having that guy as a friend, I mean, it was free trucks, free wheels, free this, free that, free skate time, free this, going on road trips, smoking weed, doing, it was a really good time. I had a really good time because of that guy, and I met all kinds of people because of him, then in Christmas Day 1993 is when he killed himself. And so it's just been kind of it made Christmas rough for a lot of years. Took a long time to get over that. But so I'm getting over that. I've got I'd blown out my knee. I was at his funeral with,
because you were saying it was around 93, right? Yeah.
I was on crutches and stuff at his funeral. And so it kind of, skateboarding kind of went dark for a little while there for me. And, the mini trucking came through and I just really started going to shows. And I mean, I looked at magazines. I had all these magazines from all through the 80s and stuff. And so I knew about all these shows and stuff. But I mean, every weekend for me was at the ramp or at the pool or skating or on the road, the skate contest or, something like that, So it wasn't until really that, the mid 90s when I really started getting hardcore about mini trucks. And I was probably I was way older than Chaz, and we were hanging out together all the time, I mean, how old are you now?
42.
42. So see, I'm 15 years older than him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't seem that old.
Yeah.
Well, it's ironic because it's not the same thing. But when we had Bill Allen on, who was, he played, quote, a BMX, guy in Rad in '86. He was super good friends with Brandon Lee. So when I read his book, he was talking about like, man, the day they found out about Brandon Lee passing away, and you think like, you're this actor that you've been on Family Ties, you've been in this Rad movie, whatever, and then Brandon Lee, he's this up and coming star, and he passes away, and he kind of talked a little bit in his book about just the eye opening experience of that. But we've seen some BMX guys as well kind of pass away, and it's tough because like you and I, although we might be a little bit off, like you were saying with Chaz and the age, like you think back to that era. And, a lot of us give, the tip of the cap to like Stacy Peralta, and some of those guys, obviously you watch the Dogtown, and the Z-Boys and all that stuff. And what's crazy is those guys really push the, I don't want to say genre, but that whole lifestyle and that whole sport into another level. But I mean, it sounds like, you were, you grew up in that era, and that's pretty freaking cool, man.
And I grew up right in that world. I mean, right in that world, man.
That's pretty awesome.
Skated contest everything all through the 80s. I mean, I wasn't very good. I didn't really win much, but I skated a lot all the time. And I had friends that, I mean, all the Texas pros are friends of mine. Well, let me say that the North Texas pros. I don't really know the Houston guys well, but I mean, Jeff Phillips, Dan Wilkes, Craig Johnson, Mike Crum, John Comer, who just passed away last year. He was the one-footed guy, who was awesome. He skated for Pal Peralta. I mean, I watched those kids grow up at the ramp, So now, Mike Crum is doing this cool thing called 4 Down. It's the number 4 DWN. You can follow him on Instagram or whatever, but it's a nonprofit thing in Dallas. For some reason, Dallas hasn't built a skate park in Dallas proper. All the little cities around there have them, but Dallas has not. And so Mike has, rented this building down in kind of a rundown area where it's cheaper, and has started this nonprofit down there. And he feeds a lot of people down there, and he builds. And he's got sponsors like Dickies and stuff, and he throws contests, and he's got a big giant vert ramp, for those guys that are still into vert, and he's got this bowl. They just concreted the bowl. So, he's got some cool stuff going on. And I just remember when he was just a little 10-year-old kid. I mean, sometimes I'd give him rides home to his house in, they lived in Highland Park, and, he's like 11, 12 years old, and he's riding the bus to the ramp, all the time. Wow. So, and now he's doing all this really cool stuff,
Good stuff for the community and stuff. Yeah. I know skateboarding has brought a lot of people together, and although, I wasn't good, I was friends with a couple guys that were really good, and to me, it's the culture, it's the lifestyle of it, and that's really awesome. Like, I always admire, like, a post here and there from you, Ronnie, that, you'll talk about it, and then I remember when you said Jeff Phillips, I think it was, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, this guy, and the guy Joe Lamb, like, some people could look at him and go, oh, it must be nice, have all these decks. Like, I always admire anybody that's truly, like, just excited about a genre, right, or a hobby.
Yeah, and he zones. Joe zones in on the the vision stuff and the sim stuff.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool because a lot of people are so Pal Peralta oriented,
Yep.
And a Texas guy, man, we're not really big Pal Peralta followers, man. I mean, we're Zorlak, skate tough or go home, That's kind of what we were. We don't give a shit how they do it out there in California. That's and then the biggest slogan we always had was "fuck you, we're from Texas,"
Dude,
so I wore that shirt to Alex's reception at his wedding a couple months ago.
Wow.
So
yeah. Rest in peace. We'll talk about the big homie, but
they've changed that slogan now. It says "fuck you, we have Buc-ee's."
Well, now they're gonna have to change it again, because I remember when the word on the street was like, well, hey, when you're coming home from such and such show, you got to stop at Buc-ee's in Alabama. And I was like, hold on, those are like fighting words for Texans, right, Chaz? And then apparently there was the uproar when they had the one in, and now they got them all over. But dude, everybody I tell about Buc-ee's, I was like, dude, you have to understand, you think about, hey, someone tells you, hey, you got to go to this gas station to eat or whatever. And you're like, yeah, whatever. But then when you go to one, it's kind of eye-opening. It's like, whoa. And you see the gas pumps and you go in and you're like, I'll take a pork sandwich, sure.
Yeah, I'll buy a hat and a package of BBs. Yeah, let's go.
Right. Yeah, no.
I actually have one. They built one like 5 minutes from the house now. So that's a nightly adventure for us, man.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Yeah, I love it. There's so much there.
I've only been to Buc-ee's like once, man. It's not a West Coast thing, and all my trips now, all my road trips nowadays are from Dallas to out here and back,
Yeah.
And I don't see them unless I catch the one in, I think I caught the one in Denton last year or something on the way out of town. And I was like, holy shit, look at this place. Look at all these pumps.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. There by Stacy's house. That's a good one. I have a car wash for that one. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Game changer.
And what's crazy,
got a car wash.
Yeah, what's crazy is like Joe Molina and crew, like they're, from Severed, here they are going from Arizona to LST every year. And I always thought to myself, Severed Joe was like, him and his old lady are always posting about it. And I'm like, dude, like, I mean, it's kind of disgusting, a gas station, right? Then you realize, like, no, wait, hold on. They have the best bathrooms around, So it is kind of crazy. So
if you follow Barsha, I mean, Mike Barsha.
Yep.
He's a Buc-ee's fanatic, man, and it's so crazy because come into Dallas or wherever, and then like on his drive back, he stops, at a Buc-ee's by another friend. So I'm like, dude, you're like 20 minutes away. You could have called me. It's like we know where all like us Texas people know where all the Buc-ee's are. So if you check in, we know where you're at. We know the coordinates of where you're at. So you can't like sneak through Texas and post a picture at Buc-ee's without someone saying, hey, you could have called. We could have hung you out.
Oh yeah. And shout out to Joe and Morgan. They're always like Morgan will show up at LST and she'll have like the whole like zip up deal like you'd see like on Christmas Day, from like the Christmas Story movie and stuff. I'm like, holy crap. And then like, I'm hearing these crazy stories. I'm like, well, hold on. Recently I figured out the kiosk, how I can order like a breakfast taco and add some, guacamole and this and that. And I'm like, dude, I'm gravy, But so Chaz, we talked to Ronny a little bit about some of the stuff that he grew up and some of those influences, but like where you grew up, were your friends and you guys were like was it the video game era? I know some of us were into bikes, freestyle, that kind of stuff. Were some of those things influences you felt maybe on you getting into the whole truck scene?
Man, I grew up playing sports, baseball, football, and playing in the middle of the road. We had a good run at water balloon slingshot. We like to hit cars with water balloon slingshots, and
that's awesome.
And we had one kid in the street timing it out when a car would come by, and the other guy would let go and try to hit the car. And I mean, I grew up with a bunch of kids with sports and stuff. No one was ever into mini trucks or dirt bikes or skateboarding. I think I had a Nash skateboard that someone pulled me around on a bicycle with a jump rope. I mean, that's, so whenever I met Ronny, I thought, Ronny's story was just like, oh man, this dude, skateboarder, punk rock guy. Oh my God. This dude was cooler than cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
And, he had a mohawk. Oh my God. That's crazy. I mean, I was pretty sheltered, we all grew up, about 4 of us on the street that were really tight and, Tecmo Bowl, and stuff like that. That was it growing up, it really, whenever I branched off in trucks, I was the only one, out of all my friends, it's funny because I drug, a couple of them into the truck, mini truck scene, later on in life. Big Dave, this dude, man, he weighed like 285. He had a single cab Tacoma, I think.
Damn.
And you see it on Phlat Out, on one of the Phlat Outs. I'm actually driving it, dragging it down Newmarket, which is a 4-lane road by our house. And
me and Chaz and Big Dave were on a pool team together, man. We had a good time. So.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I probably forgot about that on purpose. Because then T-shirts evolved out of that, and I probably forgot about it.
Oh yeah.
And so.
Well, good
but
times.
I just it was really and meeting Ronny and stuff that really got me like die hard into mini trucks and stuff like that. But to this day I still have never owned a mini truck. I mean, I have a I have a Chevy Colorado that we use for one of my work trucks, but and every day I look at it I'm like, man, I should bag that thing. But then it's like, well,
yeah.
I had to teach my guy how to drive a standard. I don't know if I can teach him how to work bags.
Right. Yeah, it is crazy, Ronny, because if you think about what Chaz is saying, that it's funny. You can use the hashtag mini trucking, and a lot of times the mini truckers, if you really go back to the old days, someone we recently had on, Mike Collins, he talked about like the step toppers, and you think about like, the 70s into the 80s, you had these toppers and then the backs were even higher and they kind of looked weird, like real old school. But then you have the quote old school that we all know of, but then the full size trucks. Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. Yep. And when you think about like how the full size trucks and some of us branched off the Cadillacs and things like that, I mean, mini truckers, like if you ask me, like, the Gendros of the world that helped spearhead the airbags, that really was like kind of the springboard a lot of, for what we have today as a mini trucker, right, Ronny?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I heard, so Jason Pang tells the story about how Gendro got, he was working at Gendro's shop when Gendro got his hands on a couple of 2 airbags from like the Firestone rep. And, he had seen it, I guess, on the back of an 18-wheeler. And so Jason, I guess, had a brand new truck. Gendro wanted to bag the front end on it, and and Jason wouldn't let him do it. And so he sent Jason out on a parts run with in the company in the shop truck. He came back, and his truck and Jason's truck was pulled into the into the bay, and they'd already started cutting it up and trying to figure out how to make bags work.
Yeah,
So,
it's crazy how times have won.
Cool story.
Yeah, and one tip of the cap to Gendro, because he was from my understanding, he was at Mike Collins' house when we did some audio about Skybody. But the cool thing is, Gendro obviously kind of family guy, a lot of like how a lot of us are. But I think he's realized, the power that we have these days of looking back at like how much some of you guys and you can look at spin any different way, how many things that people have done. And like I always tell people, like Brian Gendro did so much. Like I cannot believe sometimes the amount of vehicles that his name or hands were on. Like it's truly mind-blowing. So it's cool, and we can't wait to have him on. But
I think he moved to Arkansas, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he
did.
I think he did, and it was like because of his daughter's softball and stuff, so it kind of shows his transition.
Related.
Yeah, which is cool.
So.
But before we ask Ronny a little bit about, because I want to talk about Phlat Out DVD. I think that was like spearheading the scene in many ways. With the content. Chas, I was kind of curious. So like a lot of us, we always think of. I know when I met you about a year ago, we talked a lot about your OBS truck. So you mentioned a couple that you had. How did you end up with the Toddzilla truck that was from Florida? Because I'd love to talk about that truck a little bit.
So whenever my extended cab, quote unquote, came up missing, I had a little bit of insurance money. Then I saw that Sean Bowker had the Toddzilla truck, and he had some frustrations with the shop and this and that. They were going back in it and do some other stuff from what I remember. And
but we got to remember too, though, that truck came to Heatwave like a year or two before you got it, and it was groundbreaking. People were freaking out on that thing. When it came to Heatwave,
I happened to park. Actually, that reminds me. I actually parked next to it at the hotel, and I walked around the back end of it. I was like, "Holy shit! Look at this bed! Oh my god! Just the bed of it.
It was crazy for that time.
The sheet metal that, and Rhodes Auto Works, did all that bed work and everything on it.
Anthony, shout out.
Yep.
Yeah, oh yeah. And so Bowker had it for sale. He was frustrated with the shop he had it at. Dumped money in it and wasn't doing anything. So I don't know if I found him on Street Source or Sport Truck back then on the chat room forum or whatever. Or modified, or I don't remember where I came across it at, but this is all during me trying to get in Camber with the gray and white truck, and so we lined it up. So I'll buy it from you, blah blah. Here's send them the money or send them half the money or whatever it was, and we lined it up to get picked up in Greenville. In Greenville, Mississippi.
For Showfest,
well,
probably.
Yeah, Showfest. And I wasn't able to make it out there, but Ronny and his buddy Randall went out there, and I'm like, hey, my buddy Ronny can scoop it up, and, they can drive it back or drive it back halfway or whatever. Well, they called, what was it? Y'all were in Monroe. Were y'all in Monroe, or where were y'all? Y'all were past Monroe.
So Randall jumps in that thing and starts heading back, and Randall left before we did because we weren't ready to go yet. But he had to get back for something, so we were like, okay, we'll just take Chaz's truck and start driving back and get go meet up with him, And so Randall took off, and that was when so that he's going down the road once he gets to the interstate or something. And from Greenville to get all the way down to the interstate, it's pretty good ways. I mean,
right, it was. I remember that.
Yeah, it wasn't close to us, He was this is like 4 or 5 hours ahead of us, probably.
Yep.
And I guess we had cell phones those days. Yeah, we did.
Flip
I guess.
phones,
yeah, they were definitely flip
phones.
I don't even think we were texting back then.
No.
And so one of the caps on the center cap of the wheel spins off the wheel and hits the valve stem and knocks it out.
Oh, are you kidding me?
on the side of the road. Just you can't even air it up. Air is all out of it, out of the tire, and so that's what started it. And then I think Jason from Outlandish Trends happened upon him first and tried to help and run it around, take and this is on a Sunday, trying to go home, so right. Sunday now it's easy to go get your tire done and stuff on a Sunday, but not back then. Mm-hmm. So he takes the tire and Randall to Walmart to try to get a valve stem put in it, but it was 20s, and they didn't have a machine that would handle 20s. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what happened after that, Chaz. I mean, I don't remember how they got it.
I think they what it was is they didn't have anybody that could work on the 20 because it's so big. And Jason's like, I'll do it. Just let me work the machine. I'll do it. And they got it fixed. I was in Shreveport waiting on delivery. It was about 4 hours from home. And
yeah, so it was in Shreveport.
So we had to drive deeper into Louisiana to meet y'all on the side of the road where I picked it up.
Yeah.
And then...
and while all that's going on, we're slowly catching up. So by the time that, we all kind of converged there together on it and finally get it put back together and start out. We put it on a trailer or something, didn't we?
No, I drove it all the way home. I drove it. Okay. Y'all wanted to, but I was like, no, I just, brand new truck. I'm driving it. We're about to find out, Yeah. We're about to find out what else back can go wrong. And I drove it all the way back.
Yeah.
To Mesquite. And then, whenever I worked on it, did some paint work on it and painted the dash, painted the interior, put some chrome on the engine, went to Heat Wave at Round Rock, I guess that was 01, and got into Camber, and Radar told me, straight up.
First off, though, that truck needed some love. Chaz had to really put some love into that thing because it had kind of been rattled around and bounced around from different shops and been passed around to a couple of people and been cut on here and there and barely patched back together here and there. And so he had some real work to do with that thing, So he did get it going, though.
And then Radar came, it's Radar and Grasshopper and Ronny, all, there, give me the logo. And Radar's like, you can't stop here. You can't, keep on going. Mm-hmm. And that kind of stuck with me. That really did. And then, driving the yellow truck around all around town and this and that. If you ever own a yellow truck, it's the worst color to own. I mean, I'd get out of that truck just angry, just like, God, this yellow is annoying. And so that's when we put in the shop. And we got, I got shot by tailgate while I was yellow. And then, plus I want to take, Toddzilla's name off of it, change colors. So we changed it to red.
Yeah.
And, actually the funny story about red, how it got to become red was, I was talking to Tito and like, man, I want to redo my truck. What color should I do? And, he's like, man, everybody loves hot rod red. Everybody loves red. So, I think that's where the Tito made me do it slogan came through, is that he's the reason the truck went red.
Yeah,
and
Ronny, I think, was involved in that.
Me and Chaz used to sit up at Hooters and draw new shirt designs on napkins and stuff, and then I'd go make them and get them made.
So the truck was red for a while, and Tailgate came back to me and said, hey, we want to shoot your truck. I'm like, well, what you gonna do? I'm like, oh, we'll give you cover, this and that. So then I kind of plotted Tailgate against Tito, and that's goes back to the worst mistake I've probably ever made. Is letting Tailgate shoot it first. Because I should let Courtney shoot it first. But the way he would never guarantee a cover because you never knew about lighting or anything like that.
Right.
He never knew how the photos would actually come out. So he didn't want to put his foot in his mouth and say, yeah, you're going on the cover. And then photos look like crap. And then, the magazine looks like crap. And it's his name. So,
Yeah, and it was like Showfest 03-ish that it was shot. And I think it ran like February 04, kind of because Tailgate wasn't at that time. They were kind of like quarterly, bi-monthly, that kind of deal. There was never like they were trying to kind of find their footing. But to me, that cover came out cool. Like, you obviously got that rear kind of side 3/4 shot-ish. You got the chick on it and whatnot.
Yeah, that was actually, no. The cover girl wasn't wasn't Pasquale's girlfriend. It was the inside shot girl. That was a club member of ours at the time. It's his girlfriend that modeled on it.
I see.
I guess she didn't make the cut for the cover.
Yeah,
You know?
and I was like too though. So talk to us a little bit about, you mentioned the dynamic between, so it runs on tailgate cover, but to me I thought it was awesome too that like Brian McCormick shot it. It seemed like the dry beds out in Vegas, and that table of content slash feature to me. Although Courtney maybe wasn't involved in that aspect of it, to me like it was just that was sick, dude.
I trailered that thing out there. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that was at Rockahula Water Park that year, which is a really, wasn't that Severtide's 20-year or 10-year? Or?
It was Revolution, wasn't it? Or
but Severtide's had their party out there.
Yeah, I forget how many years they had it at Rockahula. It was weird because Rezo's always confusing to me because it was basically late 02 that kind of went into 03, right? And
it was always like New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was something
New Year's
like that.
Weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, so I never knew if are we there in 02 or are we there in 03? What are we calling this thing?
Yeah, it's so confusing.
I was always confused on that one.
Yep.
I'd say 03.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say 03.
Yeah, because it ran in 04, I think it was.
Yeah, it went into 04.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got it back and cruising around town. I drove that truck all the time, and Mitch Henderson drove that truck all the time, and that's back. Me and him were real tight 'cause he lives here in North Texas with me. I'd let him take the truck home, and he'd always jack with me and tell me, "Oh, I drug that son of a bitch all the way home."
You're like, "Damn you!"
And so another cool story was when we were when it was red. We were actually in downtown Dallas cruising around with the MIC dually whenever Brent's Wheels owned it.
Yeah.
And that's when I ripped the roll pan. That's when I ripped the roll pan out of it off a manhole. But yeah, so I cruised that thing anywhere. So it was up at a local beer joint, called Sports City in Mesquite. And I walk out one day and after, a couple beers, 10, I don't know. And I'm like, looking at my buddy Joe. I'm like, well, where the fuck we park at? And he's like, I don't know, but that's your glass right there.
No way.
Someone stole my truck. Yeah, knocked my driver's side window out and stole it.
When it was red, obviously.
Yeah, when it was red. Yeah, and they stole my wheels. Anything BAD gave me, stole it. My MA audio that Captain hooked me up with, stole that. Everything, and we like couple weeks later we get it back and pull it out of an impound lot. Just yank it out and get it back to my buddy's shop, Kevin York at Creative Colors. Get him at his shop. I'm like, looking at him, which we're both OBS people. We're both just die hard. Just looking at each other like, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, man, I want. And he's like, let's flame it. I'm like, dude, and I can't draw a stick figure, but I am very picky about flames. I am so picky about flames. I'm so judgmental about flames. It's one of my downfalls, but Kevin can lay some flames down. And I'm like, dude, do your magic. And so there we go. Me and Jessica and Kevin and Joe and Pooh, we're all in there just sanding away, just sanding that whole damn truck down. And his cousin came over and sheet metal the floor for us, and which I got the idea off of Scooby's dually, the floor being, painted and turned into flames, man. And then just reached out to Tito again. He's like, yeah, let's shoot it, and hauled it on the heat wave. He shot it, and then of course, then he passes before it can run, and then like the next year, I take it to heat wave and I run into Travis Noack, and which we've talked beforehand, and which it was like a blessing meeting him because he's he's
a fiend,
a genius, man.
And he's good.
I tell you, he is. I could not have picked a better person to write my article or do anything, man, because he did it right, and
that's when it was playing with fire, right? That when he shot it.
Yeah. And so we pulled up, and he's like, "Man, I want to shoot the truck." I'm like, "All right, buddy, let's do it." And thankfully, it ran on cover, and even with the missing lug nut, it ran on cover. I was happy about that.
Yeah, no, that's like the little thing on mini trucking. Yeah, and where it was shot, it always because I'm looking at the photo now when it ran on Street Truck's cover, it almost seems like the same place. Because here's the cool tie-in. So Ronny had shared some behind the scenes, I'll say it, coverage recently on Phlat Out Instagram, and it almost seems like the same exact spot where Duck's dually was shot when it was blue. Was that at Heat Wave?
Yeah.
Used to line them up and do a bunch of them at
Yep.
like one spot. He'd do 3 or 4 guys at a time.
Oh yeah.
If the light was right,
Yep. Yeah, because I see that building in the background, and I always thought for some reason in my head I was like, oh, that's way behind like where Showfest was at, and somebody was like, no, that was in Texas. I was like, oh, okay. But it is cool to think about the history where it went down.
Yeah, my pictures. Hey man, like I got shot at Slamboree, and it was this old dirt pile in the background with this roof thing, and a lot of people got shot there, So
yep.
But
yeah, so it runs on the cover, and that's the crazy thing because Tim from NC Florida, he shared some photos where obviously originally it was green, that his brother obviously builds it, it's kind of yellow. You acquire it, it goes red. And obviously, I loved it again when Brian McCormick shot it when it was on the tailgate cover. I mean, it was super sick. Kind of a classic OBS truck, especially by today's standards. And then, oh, by the way, it's like, hey, that's not the end of it. It's like, boom, kind of in that gunmetal grayish color with the yellowish flames, and then boom, it's on the cover. So, I mean, dude, what a legacy, Chas, that truck had.
Don't forget the stars.
Yeah, the stars. And Evans comes up, it's like,
that's
right. I'm gonna put stars on your truck. I'm like, you are not gonna do anything that gay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's when it was like the gunmetal gray with the yellowish when it was on the cover.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you might want to come look at your truck.
You're like, well, I need my shit. Well, and two, because were they Bond Speed wheels? Because that was the era when a lot of guys, and you'll still see this, right? You'll still see some color match wheels, but like the wheels to me, like where you have the polished spoke, and then you have the yellow, like all of that just tied in nicely.
That was those are actually BAD wheels,
BADs.
the Gunslinger.
Okay,
and
got it.
And so, funny story to that was those wheels were in the powder coater's shop when my truck got stolen. So I didn't lose those. My powder coater was powder coating them red.
Yeah, he's changed colors.
Are you?
No, he was so mad.
Dude,
he was so pissed because he had to get all that powder coating off.
Use that shit to get them off. That's like on some Grand Theft Auto shit before Grand Theft Auto. Remember, like you would just like on the game, you'd pull in a shop and like you'd paint your car, and you're like, all right, the cops are off me now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That was he was so mad about those wheels. I just remember he's all, I'll never do this again.
Yeah, we'll share some of
the paint wheels.
Yeah, and we'll share some of those photos. You can follow Chas on Instagram, CHAS Nichols, NICHOLS, Chas Nichols. We'll share some of those and tag them, dude. I mean, but when I think back to the legacy of that truck, like it really had a damn good run. And sometimes I'll think to myself, like, when we had Mike Collins on recently, we talked about Skybody, and he goes, well, I had that truck about 5 years, and you go, man, mini, lowered, lifted, change color again, like a crazy run in a 5-year span. This truck, I know my buddy Matt Torgerson, I think for a while he worked at, with Rhodes Auto Works, and, there was some, he maybe body dropped it or he didn't, and Rhodes and those guys had that. But, you think back to yellow, from green to yellow to red to that. I mean, dude, what a fucking run it had, Chas.
And what's crazy is that the whole run of everything, the interior bed that Rhodes built, never changed, never got touched, never cracked, never, the only thing I did to that bed was drill holes in the front of it for the water. So that Forrest from Vegas Sever Ties would not put goldfish in my shit again.
I remember Forrest. Yes, I remember Forrest. He had that Sonoma or the goldish S10 Sonoma. Seemed like.
I don't remember, but I do. Him and a few others put goldfish in my bed at Greenville one year.
Yeah.
And
that's funny.
yeah, but the roads built it well. I'll tell you that. I mean, because you can ask Ronnie, you can watch it on Phlat Out. I put that truck through hell.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we had to put an extra, drag bar in there. Farmer down at Insane Designs put a whole drag bar underneath the bed of it, so I wouldn't, yank the tailgate off again.
Yep.
Yeah, just like 1/8 of an inch below the roll pan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that thing threw some stupid sparks. And actually, the truck was actually about 1.5 inches lower whenever I got rid of it versus when I got it.
Oh.
Because I just we beat that truck to hell.
Yeah.
And actually when it got stolen, the insurance guy came in, put it on a lift. He's like, "No, brother, it's total, man. This frame is missing, the bottom part of it." And I'm like, "Oh, it's good. Just it'll be all right.
Hook us up, man."
Pay me. They actually totaled it. They totaled the truck when it was stolen, and I bought it back. Actually, buying it back, and I was fortunate enough to keep a blue title on it.
Interesting.
And
wow.
It's actually up in like New Hampshire now.
Is it? Wow. So that's what I was going to kind of ask you. So, well, what's cool is, right, so, Ronnie, he had mentioned, like, you guys talked a little bit about how you guys met, but, like, when I was looking back, kind of getting ready for this interview, I pulled out, unfortunately, I don't have all of the Phlat Out DVDs, but when I look back and you look at the date stamp on it, you're talking 03, right? And one thing that I've always tried to tell people is that the only other DVD that I can vaguely remember going to Best Buy, like they had they had the Mayhem Street Trucks, was kind of in that era. But to me, in my opinion, you were the forefront of going, hey, I'm going to go to shows, I'm going to take some video back on the mini DVs and stuff like that, and you're going to create this magazine, so to speak. Talk to us a little bit about, like, where did you get the original idea for Phlat Out DVD?
Well, I told you I'm a skateboarder. And so in the skateboarding world, they have this video magazine called 411 VM. Mm-hmm. And I had a few of those. And then one day it just hit me. I was like, oh, shit, I need to take this idea over here.
To the trucks.
And so take it over to this other world of mine. And I just had the idea. I was like, oh, man, I can do, you can do shop tours. You can do tech articles. You can do show coverage. You can do this. You can do that, all on video, and just kind of bring this whole scene to life, because you're going to these shows and all you're seeing is a 2D image, coming out of it. And then here we're going to give you, this, right in your face movement, of stuff actually happening. And, the idea of, instead of reading a story, like we're talking about a few minutes ago, like, Travis writing his story, or like on my feature, Mike Finnegan actually wrote mine, and then, and then you take, you just take the truck owner and have him tell the story itself, And so that was probably the hardest part, is getting people on camera to talk about their stuff, If they're not on camera, they'll talk about their shit all day long. But, you put them on camera and they all of a sudden get bug-eyed and stuff. So some people had it, some people didn't, the whole thing, like Mitch had it,
Yeah.
So right off the bat, I was trying to explain to people, and, even Chaz, and they weren't really understanding what I was talking about. So I had to get some footage and get some stuff together. I had been working with this guy in the corporate world who, we all had PCs and stuff and everything, but he insisted on working on a Mac. Mm-hmm. And so that guy taught me about how to operate a Mac. And, and did a little bit. He was our marketing and media guy at the office. And so he was making little videos and stuff, And so he showed me how to get things going in Final Cut. The place I had worked previously, we had an editing studio, and my buddy Hector worked in there. So I'd hung out in there quite a bit. But that was a whole big, like, Avid system, and that was really confusing. So now Final Cut comes along, and it's just right there on your laptop, and it's Hollywood quality, of editing, and for like, $500.
Yep.
So, so I took some money out of my IRA and bought some cameras and some gear and some stuff, and and said, man, we're gonna make this happen. I'd kind of quit my job and said, man, we're gonna make this happen.
Yep.
And so got out there and started shooting video. And of course, I had Chaz in the height of the red truck days, and he was dragging the shit out of it. So I had him, I had Mitch nearby. I had, like Kevin McCandless with the, with the wagon, the Honda wagon that was blue and had
Wicked wagon.
Wood down the side, Wicked wagon. Yeah.
Yep.
I had all these friends around. I'd already been in the show scene for a while, and I knew all these people. And so, just made it happen and, started trying to just hustle, get to this show, get to that show, get some footage, get some content. It's just all about getting content. You can never have enough. You're just always constantly trying to get something, That's why, I would at like Greenville, like a ballpark. I would just give them a camera and say, hey, man, I'm going to be over here party. You go party over there. Just get some footage. Just shoot this, shoot that, see what happens. I'll get home and we'll see what's there, and I'll see if I can make something out of it, and that's where, the favorite part of every bit of every one was the outtakes. That's what everybody loved the most, And so, it was just capture all that fun stuff, all that fun nightlife. Greenville was insane, It was for about 4 or 5 years of my life, man. It was just the Super Bowl,
Yep. It was. Yeah. And that's the cool thing. And, when I think back to the original one, I looked recently, you had the outro by Jay. Of course you had credits, you had the fun stuff, but you also have, like, I think it was Andrew Shane. You have, like, a Ragtop Install, Showfest, of course. I think it was Cincy Rob, Keith Thompson. Ernie was tied into the first one. Of course, Mitch, you mentioned, rest in peace, Ernie, rest in peace, Mitch. But, like, to me, the drag sessions, the different things, Luke from KC and stuff like that, you really look back and go, a tip of the cap to you because, we want you to know, like, when I think back to all of the folks that came before us, like, you were at the forefront of this, right? And from there, you had Solo Films DVD, you had Low Life Mikey, you had Domination, of course, our homie out there in Arizona, Oliver. Yeah. But you had all of these guys, and to me, like, what's awesome, and even us now, you come all this way, and you go, well, there was magazines, and there was videos for a while. Now it's, YouTube, podcast, social media, this and that. But you got to think back to almost 20 years, I would think, and, Ronny, and just, not that you're a pat on your back type of guy, but I would think that you got to think back sometimes and go, you know what, we were at the forefront of this.
Yeah. Yeah, we do, man. It was kind of it was a really cool era and a really cool time and a cool idea that, was really kind of ahead of its time because nowadays it'd be a lot easier to make it work. You got YouTube and you got a lot of different streaming medias and things, back then we didn't have all that. And that's really what kind of killed it is the fact that, the cost of having to get DVDs printed, having to ship them out, having to do all that kind of stuff, having to go get content and everything. If you could just, have people, with phones, phone cameras in there sending you video and stuff, and you don't have to have the travel schedule that we had to have or we felt like we had to have back then, I felt like I couldn't just cover the, just the Dallas or the Texas scene, I felt like I had to get out. And so I started traveling coast to coast,
Yeah, real deal.
And you'd be kind of like, not as much as nonstock, nowadays, and how he shape shifts and stuff. But I was in Virginia Beach one weekend, and then I'd catch, go down and catch pebble pushers, and then I'd be on the road all week long. I'd catch a couple of shops, like Anthony at Raw. I'd go down and see him, and then I'd stay with some, and I slept on so many camber couches,
right.
It was so much more, economical, and having that camber influence, and then of course, Tito was integral in the beginning of it. I called him up with this idea and he was like, holy shit, dude, that's great. You need to do it. And he was like, I'll help you all I can, but we couldn't really get the big magazines to understand how this could benefit them or how that could accentuate what they've already got going in print, and having a website with video that goes along with it, is the way it is now,
Yeah, it was almost like ahead of the time because I've watched some things about the guy Lasseter that was at like Pixar, and like he was trying to tell people like, hey, the animation's going to be big, and they're like, well, we don't know how this is going to fit in here at Disney, and then he does his own thing, and they're like, hold on, we want you. But like to your point, it was like it was almost before. We all know Sport Truck, Street Sports, and stuff was in the 90s, but it was before things really did blow up. So there were some media outlets that just couldn't kind of maybe fathom or wrap their brain around it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's exactly what we were facing, is that we just couldn't get, we needed some kind of corporate sponsor,
Yo, I know what some of you guys are thinking. I get it. It's kind of like back in the 80s. Remember, you're watching your favorite show. Maybe it was G.I. Joe. Maybe it was some Dukes of Hazzard. Maybe it was Knight Rider, and it was to be continued. But we have to leave it off here because the audio is about another hour, and it's really good. There's a lot of good topics. So please follow us if you came here for this podcast episode. You can follow and or subscribe, and we will bring you the second half of the interview next week. I do want to thank Mini Truck Showdown, so thanks so much to Corey. You heard us at the top talk about it, but Mini Truck Showdown's going down the first weekend in June, and it's going to be in Las Vegas. It's going to be one of the biggest and baddest truck shows on the West Coast. If you go on Instagram, type in Mini Truck Showdown. They're, of course, on Facebook, as I mentioned earlier. They've got a lot of great sponsors. They've got cool artwork this year. It's June 3rd through the 5th, 2022, and it's going down out in Las Vegas. We'll be out there, Mike and I. We would hope that you would pre-register. They've got different packages depending on how you want to come in as far as family and things like that. So be on the lookout for more information, Mini Truck Showdown on Instagram. So I'm sure I forgot. I think there were a few things this week that I wanted to cover, but listen, I covered a lot earlier, trying to scale it back a little bit. Please check out Lincoln Attic Podcast, as I mentioned. Thanks to Chaz, and thanks to Ronny for sitting down. And again, the second half of the interview will come next week. Thank you guys for listening all the way through. Stay on the rise. Be safe this weekend, and check out the hashtag EBGD 2022. Mike has been using that one. That stands for Eastbound Get Down 2022. That will curate all of those posts for the event this weekend. Go Pack Go. We got you. Peace.